One. Alright, what is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys with another deck profile. First of all, this is only my first deck profile for Yu-Gi-Oh! For the year of 2024. So, yeah, we have a new deck profile, and it's not Harpie Lady. Well, I mean, it's Harpie Lady cards in it, but it is Floowandereeze, because, you know, I love my birds. And Floowandereeze is probably currently the most competitive deck that I will probably have on the channel for a minute. I mean, there's gonna be Sky Striker, because spoilers, I'm gonna be doing a Sky Striker deck profile soon, and I'm actually excited for both of these because I like Sky Striker. I like what's been going on, and I like the recent updates to the Forbidden Limited list that basically just helped Sky Striker out. But I'll talk more about that when we talk about Sky Striker. But what I am happy about is nothing got touched in Floowandereeze. That made Floowandereeze have to scream. So that's actually a pretty good thing. And one thing about Floowandereeze is that Floowandereeze has such a base skeleton that you can easily fit so many things in it. And it's a really, really cool deck. So if you want something cheap and competitive, you easily can. And I'm saying cheap and competitive because of the fact that some of the major powerhouse spells and traps have been reprinted. So with the exception of Triple Tactics Thrust, which I'm sure many people on a higher level are in the competitive scene have and are probably using with this. If you can't afford it, that's perfectly fine. Because you have options for things in Yu-Gi-Oh! That you can easily make up for that card. And even so, if you can't make up for that card, you just have other options of things you can easily play. So hopefully this will help you out more than it will hurt you. So with that said, why don't we go ahead and we go into the deck profile. So starting off with my with my monster cards. I'm running 3 copies of Floowandereeze Rabina, 3 copies of Floowandereeze Eaglin, then 1 copy of Stree, 1 copy of Toucan, 2 copies of Impin, and then 1 Mist Valley Apex Avian, and 1 Rise of the Mega Monarch. Then for the last monsters in the deck, I am running 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. So that is it for the monster cards. Gonna go ahead and go on into my spells. And for the spells, 3 copies each of Floowandereeze in the Magnificent Map, 3 copies of Floowandereeze in the Advent Adventure, 1 copy of Floowandereeze in the Unexpected Winds, 1 copy of Harpie's Feather Duster, then 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity, 3 copies of Pot of Duality, 3 copies of Book of Moon, and then 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Alright, that is it for the spells. Then we move on to the traps. Of course, it is not a Wingy Beast deck if we're not rocking out with the triple copies of the Harpie Feather Storm. And then we have 1 copy of Floowandereeze in the Scary Seas and 1 copy of Floowandereeze in the Dreaming Town. So that is it for the main deck. And then for the extra, this one you can do of your own in variations, which I'm sure many people do. And I'm running in my extra deck, I'm running 3 copies of Harpie Conductor, 1 copy of Winnie, the Wind Chandler Verdant, 1 copy of Area, the Wind Chandler Gentle, 1 copy of Miss Starboy, then 2 copies of Lureless Assembly Blue Robin, 2 copies of Lureless Racktail Starling, 2 copies of Lureless Assembled Nightingale, then 1 Utopic Future, and then 1 Zubale Zeus Sky of Thunder. Now, hopefully should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. That is 14 cards, so I'm missing an extra deck monster. Download Magician. There we go. Alright, so that is the 15 card Downer Magician, and I think that's only because I don't know where my Downer Magicians is. Or yes, I do. I know where she is. I just don't have her on me because she's somewhere else, but it's okay. But I've said it before I even go back into the monster explanation, just with the extra deck itself, like I said, you can just float in any extra deck monsters you want to, because with the extra deck, you're basically just abusing it with cards like your Pot of Prosperity, because you're going to be clearing out your extra deck and then excavating your cards to get to things. So that actually just takes out 2 versus 1. So now, let's go ahead and go into the monsters of the main deck, which are simple. Rabina, to search for your little Winged Beast monsters that are level 4 or lower. You have Eaglin, who's going to be searching for your level 7 or higher birds. Then you have Stree to banish cards in your opponent's graveyard, while either player's graveyard, and then Tukin is able to retrieve a banished Floowandereeze card from your that you have and add it back to your hand. I love the Floowandereeze. These guys are amazing. I normally run 2 extra of these so I can see them more often, and if not, be able to search for them more off of Robina, because with Street more particularly, we're seeing a lot of decks that are utilizing their graveyard a lot more. So Street is definitely going to be one of the cards that I would honestly say, if anyone, um, it would probably be bumped up to 2, just because we're dealing with a lot of decks that are going to be trying to manipulate the graveyard and filling up the graveyard and using the graveyard. So Street would definitely be a good counter to them, besides your dimension shifters. We still have triple macros Cosmos, we have triple dimensional fissure that I'm sure people are probably siding in. So you have all your various of options there, but this is what I'm rocking out with. I know most people are rocking out with this simpler combination of things as well. So it's like the 3 Eaglin, the 3 Robina, the 1 Stree, the 1 Toucan. And as you also know, I did upgrade my Stree and Toucan, because now there's Super Toucans and the Ultra Toucan and the Super Stree. Because I don't think they're any reverse orders, but yay. So I'm gonna move these birdies out the side, out the way into the side, so we can talk about, of course, our big birdies. And our big birdies, of course, are um, Floowandereeze in the Impin, because this card basically gets your spells and traps and adds into your hand on its summon. Then on top of that, it gives you additional normal summons, so if you have any of your little birds in the hand, you can play them. You have your Omni Negate in the forms of Miss Valley, Apex, Avian, and when we lost some more of the bird of sovereignty, that we weren't going to see any decks already playing Apex Avian, maybe a couple of Pendulum here and there. But even then, when Pendulum got a lot of their major support back there, you didn't really see too much of Apex Avian. But Floowandereeze can still rock out an Apex Avian, because it's so easy to distribute summon a big bird, and then go from there. And then, of course, you have one of the major disruptors. You have Rise of the Storm Monarch. So simply just running one of each of them, not too big of an issue there. Your return cards, and you have your Omni Negate, and then you have your Searcher, and it's just your Powerhouse and Impin. So that is it for the targets that our boy Eaglin can get. And then I'm running Dimension Shifter. Now, I know you can easily run your Ash Blossoms and your Joy Springs. You can run your Drone Lockbirds. Of course, there's a bird we can even run for a hand trap, and that is DD Crow. So all of those are various options that I can easily suggest going into this deck as well. If you don't want to run the multiples of certain cards, or you're not running certain things, that is, like I said, player's preference. But yeah, I'm definitely running the Dimension Shifters, because that is a must-have in Floowandereeze, because that stops your opponent from taking advantage of the graveyard, or even getting to a graveyard and being able to float around there. You can use Ryza to return it back to your deck, so you can cycle through things there. It's just a good option. It's the greatest option of things you can have to counteract your opponent in their heavy use of the graveyard. So with that, we move on from there. Now we go on into our spells. Also, it's like the counteractive to a lot of hand traps too. All right, going on there, let's talk about our spell cards. And we have Floowandereeze in the Magnificent Map, Floowandereeze in the Advent of Adventure, and Floowandereeze in the Unexplored Winds. So now let's talk about the Floowandereeze powerhouse spells. So Floowandereeze in the Advent of Adventure, it's either banish a Winged Beast monster to go and get your field spell, or going to get any of Floowandereeze monsters. Just a ton of recycle setup, a ton of just searching out to thin out for your setup, and even else is just another terraforming to go get your Floowandereeze field spell, because your field spell is great. While it does not give any power bonuses, what it initially does is it allows you to banish a Winged Beast monster, reveal a Floowandereeze card in your hand, and then banish a Floowandereeze card in your reveal a monster in your hand, banish a card in your deck, and then play that Floowandereeze card. With that in tow, you're banishing cards from your deck so that you can play Rabina. Rabina can then search for Toucan, or you can play the Toucan from your hand, get their effects off, and then recycle and then go through that whole process and then putting things onto the board without having to waste your one normal summon per turn. The other thing about Floowandereeze and Maintenance now is you can play this on your opponent's turn when your opponent starts doing some shenanigans. So then you really start pissing off your opponents like, oh great, now they have to deal with their normal summoning on my turn to counteract everything I do on the turn. And that can cause even more disruptions as well. So Floowandereeze definitely had that together with them. And one of the most um, interactive cards is the Unexplored Winds, which has the ability to do some hand correction, where revealing two winged beasts, up to two winged beasts, returning them to the bottom of the deck, and drawing up to 2 cards for each one that you return. Then the fact that you can use this card to tribute your opponent's cards for a tribute summon of a monster that you're going to be using during going to be doing. So you combine that with Floowandereeze and Magnificent Map, or you combine that with the Floowandereeze in the Dreaming Town. You're definitely screwing your opponent over and getting rid of problematic cards and threats all in one. So yeah, this is a very good powerhouse for the Floowandereeze. Now, moving on from their powerhouse spells and traps, let's go into their supporting spells and traps. Of course, Harpie's Feather Duster, which is probably the only one of here, and that's simply just because to get rid of those nasty spells and traps your opponent are playing against you. Then, for consistency, of course, we have our pots. We have Pot of Prosperity, and we have Pot of Duality. Duality, getting over a Pot of Prosperity's cannot draw thing is great because, of course, it just means that you can easily excavate, go get your other spells and traps, and then utilize them. Pot of Prosperity helps you dig into the deck by getting rid of cards in your extra deck, and like I said, when it's talking about the extra deck, it's not so much of a thing, it's just another resource. And for a deck like this, it is perfectly fine because you run so many doubles, you can run so many different things in your extra deck that even if you don't have them, you're focusing on your main deck and things to get your main deck flowing so that you can have the control that Floowandereeze have, which is, of course, summoning all these winged beasts and being able to take things out. So yeah, definitely right side to having the combo of these. Now, one thing I am going to say is that the next set of staple cards, well, that depends on how much of them that you actually need, because I'm running the Book of Moon. This is a really good interruption of things, and I've been seeing this card used a lot lately, because of how much of a disruption. Remember, Book of Moon was really good disruption, and people were like, "Oh yeah, Book of Moon," because remember, this card was at one for that reason. It was a really good disruption card, but it was also a really good setup card. And it's still really much doing that right now by disrupting your opponent's play so they can't link summon, they can exceed summon, they can synchro summon, just like they did in the old days. And then on top of that, we have Triple Tactics Talent, which even if you can't do the draw 2 effect, you can either take control of your opponent's monster, like, what was it? Change of Heart, which I believe Change of Heart is now at 2. And then Snatch Steal, because that's also a thing as well. Yeah, look at all these power cards coming out. And then you can confiscation in with Triple Tactics Talent. So you have a lot of the option of things to disrupt, take control, or just simply gain advantage of between these 2 cards. Now I do not have Triple Tactics dressed because that card is just very expensive. I don't have the option of getting it, but seems to be the easier option with Triple Tactics. So this Triple T is more budget friendly because now it has its reprint to where everyone can easily get it, and then it has its rarities of super ultra and all of that. So I picked up mine very much at a good time to pick those up. So alright, that is it for the spells. Now we move on into our traps, and of course we got our Harpie Feather Storm. I love this card in Floowandereeze, and you know how I feel about my Harpie cards. So this is a definite yes, because you have, when Wingy Beach, you can easily play this card with. You have so many things that you're negating thanks to its effect. Although you can't recycle it like I would like to. I mean, outside of Ryza, because you can recycle it with Ryza. If you have already done a bunch of your normal summons, you can just go ahead and link summon into your conductor and then just, powerhouse things from there. This is honestly one of my favorite Harpie traps and hysteric party because, well, they're usable. And it's a lot flexible because you can use an index that have the advantage of wind when give you small. So it's just like, well, Floowandereeze. Alright, then we have the two powerhouse traps for the Floowandereeze, and currently the only ones that they currently have. Floowandereeze in the Dreaming Town and Floowandereeze in the Scary Seas. When your opponent starts doing all the special summons, you flip the Floowandereeze in the Scary Seas. This will force them back into normal summoning, and they only get 3 normal summons for that turn. Then you have the Dreaming Town, which will allow you to do your normal summons during your opponent's turn, and even a Book of Moon effect as well. So you have more disruption from that. I also suggest maybe playing Infinity Impermanence if you don't want to play Effect Veiler, because those are also some things I can throw in as well for some optimal cards to use in your deck if you want to play around with more options of things, because you have a ton of things, like I said, with Floowandereeze you can easily do. So you don't have to really rely on my build, you can easily just rely on other builds, but the skeletons and stuff are basically the same. And then with that, I mean, I've already talked about the extra deck, but yeah, your extra deck can be any assortment of cards that you'll want, but the most important things I can honestly say are these Harpie conductors, so you can play with Harpie's Feather Storm. You have an advantage of wind and water, so area and winnie, especially now with Draw and Lockbird being played. Mistar Boy in Great Fly, just for some additional things. The Lureless extra deck monsters, just because you have the little monsters you can play around with, you can steal things, you can, not be affected by stuff. This is what the Lureless do. You can drop in the Downward Magician to go on top of them so that you can go your pilot into your machine, so you can play your AA Zeus, or you can take 2 of your monsters and just play around with the Utopic creature and then just beat into your opponent's face. There also is another Utopic monster. I don't have the card because I believe the card was very expensive, but maybe my next time I purchase it. I believe it's like a really low level monster. That's another Utopic-esque variant. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. The comment section will tell me. But yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's that other Utopic monster that's really, really good. And it does negation. That's also the other thing. Yeah, it's a negator. So that's also another thing you can drop into your extra deck. See, look, all these extra deck options for Floowandereeze, even though you're not going to be using them, because most of them you're going to be banishing with Pot of Prosperity. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the deck profile for Floowandereeze for this month. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys have. And if there's anything you'd like to suggest to your other Floowandereeze players and things that you would like to suggest to them, definitely leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, as it helps me out tremendously. Hit the notification bell to be informed when I do upload more content to the channel. My social media links, they are in the description box below. So definitely go check me out on social, because that helps me grow on those as well. With that said and done, thanks everyone for watching, and Happy New Year to you all. HPJ signing out. Take care.